Alright, buckle up because we're diving into a story that's been told for 2,000 years. We're talking about Jesus' first miracle. You know the one, right? The wedding at Cana, the hosts run out of wine. Big party foul. Imagine the scene. The music stops, guests are looking around, and the happy couple is probably starting to sweat. This wasn't just any social blunder. In that culture, hospitality was everything. Running out of wine would have been a major embarrassment, a shadow cast over what should have been a joyous occasion. Jesus, his mother Mary, and his disciples are all there. Mary, like any good mom, notices the problem. She goes to Jesus. They have no wine, she tells him. Simple words, but loaded with expectation. Jesus tells the servants to fill some large stone jars with water, 6 of them to be exact. And these weren't small jugs, folks. We're talking about vessels that could hold 20 to 30 gallons each. That's a lot of water. The servants must have been wondering what was going on. Then, Jesus gives another instruction. Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast. The head waiter takes a sip. His eyes probably went wide. This wasn't just any wine, it was the good stuff. He even pulls the bridegroom aside and says, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and when people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." He had no idea where it came from. The old beliefs. For centuries, if you asked someone where Cana was, they'd point you to one place, Kafr Kanna. It's a bustling town in Galilee, not far from Nazareth. Millions of pilgrims have traveled there. They visit the wedding church, a site that's said to be built over the house where the miracle took place. You can even see an old stone jar there, claimed to be one of the originals. It's a powerful experience for many, standing in a place so deeply connected to their faith. The tradition is strong, passed down through generations. For hundreds of years, this was the spot. Guidebooks pointed here, churches were built, stories were told. The local economy even grew around this tradition, with shops selling souvenirs and religious items. Kafr Kanna became synonymous with the miracle. It was the unquestioned location, the sacred ground where water became wine. But here's where things get interesting for us history detectives. When you start looking at the really old texts, the ancient maps, the early pilgrim accounts, the picture gets a little fuzzy. Some of the earliest Christian writers and travelers who mentioned Cana, their descriptions don't always perfectly match Kafr Kanna. Now, let's journey about 9 miles north of Kafr Kanna. We arrive at a place called Khirbet Qana. The name itself is a clue. Khirbet means ruins of in Arabic, and Qana sounds a lot like Kana, doesn't it? This isn't some new wild idea. Scholars have been looking at Khirbet Qana for a while, but it's the recent archaeological work that's really turning heads. We're talking about serious, boots-on-the-ground excavation, and what they're finding is pretty compelling. Imagine a prominent hill, overlooking the beautiful Beit Netofa Valley in Galilee. That's Khirbet Qana. From a strategic and scenic point of view, it makes a lot of sense for an ancient village. Archaeologists, led by people like Dr. Tom McCullough, began systematic digs here. They weren't just poking around, they were meticulously uncovering layers of history. What they found wasn't a minor settlement. It was a significant village that thrived during the Hellenistic, Roman, Byzantine, and early Arab periods. This time frame is crucial. It overlaps perfectly with the time of Jesus. The evidence started piling up: pottery shards, coins, building foundations. For Khirbet Qana to be the Kana of the Gospels, it needs one crucial thing: evidence of a Jewish village there in the 1st century. Why? Because Jesus was Jewish. His disciples were Jewish. The wedding he attended would have been a Jewish wedding, in a Jewish town in Galilee. Without that Jewish connection, the theory falls flat. So, what did the archaeologists find? Well, they hit the jackpot. The excavations have revealed clear signs of a vibrant Jewish community during the Roman period, which includes the time of Jesus. How do they know it was a Jewish village? Several key indicators. They found stone vessels. Jewish ritual purity laws in the 1st century meant that stone vessels were preferred because they were not susceptible to ritual impurity, unlike ceramic ones. Finding a significant number of these stone vessels is a strong sign of a Jewish population. Then there are the ritual baths, known as mikvaot. These are special stepped pools used for ritual immersion and purification in Judaism. The team at Khirbet Qana has identified structures that appear to be mikvaot. Section 5 Secret Signs, Early Christians at Khirbet Qana. Okay, so we've established Khirbet Qana as a Jewish village in the 1st century. That's a big checkmark. But what about later? If this was indeed the site of Jesus' first miracle, you'd expect early Christians to remember it, right? You'd think they might venerate the spot, perhaps even worship there. And guess what? The archaeologists found evidence of exactly that. It's like finding a hidden message left by believers centuries ago, pointing us in the right direction. One of the most amazing discoveries at Khirbet Qana is a cave complex. And this wasn't just any cave. It appears to have been used as a Christian pilgrimage and worship site from the late Roman and Byzantine periods, around the 4th to 6th centuries. Inside, they found crosses. Not just one, but multiple crosses carved into the cave walls. They also found inscriptions. One Greek inscription seems to refer to Kyrie Iesu, which means Lord Jesus. This is powerful stuff, folks. It's direct evidence of Christian devotion at this specific location. Inside this cave veneration complex, archaeologists unearthed an altar. An actual altar. Section 6. The case of the stone jars. Evidence in hand. Remember those 6 stone water jars from the Gospel story? The ones Jesus used to turn water into wine? They are a key detail. Archaeologists at Khirbet Qana have uncovered fragments of large stone vessels. This is a direct physical link to the biblical narrative. Some pieces suggest vessels large enough to fit the description in the Gospel. It shows that the necessary props for the miracle story were indeed present in this village. Section 7. The Pilgrim's Path. Why Kafr Kanna took the spotlight. So, if Khirbet Qana has all this compelling evidence, the first-century Jewish village, the early Christian worship cave, the stone jar fragments, why did Kafr Kanna become the traditionally accepted site for centuries? It's a great question, and the answer likely comes down to something very practical: convenience. Think about the journey of a pilgrim in later centuries. They wanted to visit the holy sites, but travel was difficult and often dangerous. Accessibility became a major factor in determining which sites flourished. Khirbet Qana is located on a relatively remote hill. It's not directly on major ancient thoroughfares. As time went on, especially after the early Byzantine period, it seems Khirbet Qana became more isolated, perhaps even abandoned for a while. Kafr Kanna, on the other hand, is situated in a more accessible location, closer to main roads and other pilgrimage destinations like Nazareth and Tiberias. It was simply easier for larger groups of pilgrims, especially as organized tours began, to visit Kafr Kanna. Then there's the power of tradition, even if it shifts. Once a site gains prominence, churches are built, stories are reinforced, and it becomes self-perpetuating. The Church of the Wedding at Kafr Kanna, with its impressive structure and the narrative attached to it, became a major draw. Over time, the memory of Khirbet Qana as a contender faded for most people, overshadowed by the more convenient and well-established site. Section 8. Shifting Sands. What this means for history and faith. Why does it matter if Cana was at Khirbet Qana instead of Kafr Kanna? For historians and archaeologists, it's huge. It's about getting the story right. Pinpointing the correct location helps us build a more precise map of Jesus' movements. For people of faith, discoveries like this can be enriching. Knowing these places have a real presence makes stories feel more powerful. Section 9. The adventure isn't over uncovering more secrets. The discoveries at Khirbet Qana are incredibly exciting, but this is by no means the end of the story. Archaeology is an ongoing process. Every new trench, every sifted handful of dirt, has the potential to reveal another clue, another piece of the puzzle. The team working at Khirbet Qana knows there's still much more to explore on that hill. Who knows what secrets still lie buried beneath the Galilean soil, waiting to see the light of day after 2 millennia? The potential for further discoveries is immense. Future excavations could uncover more dwellings, more stone vessels, perhaps even more inscriptions that could shed further light on the village and its inhabitants. Perhaps they'll find more definitive evidence of the synagogue that would have been central to a first-century Jewish village of this size. Or maybe they'll find more artifacts left by those early Christian pilgrims, giving us even more insight into their beliefs and practices. Each find helps to build a more complete picture of life in ancient Cana and its significance. This quest to identify the true Cana is a fantastic example of how modern science and ancient history can work together. It involves careful excavation, meticulous analysis of artifacts, and a deep understanding of historical texts and contexts. It's a collaborative effort, often involving experts from different fields